You're listening to the Rugby Coaches Corner podcast with your host, Andy Plymer.
For someone to explain.
Bringing you up-to-date coaching concepts from the world of rugby. Sharing ideas to make the game better.
Okay, welcome to episode number 11 of the Rugby Coaches Corner podcast. I'm joined today with Andy Muir. He's the Managing Director of Coach Logic, which he started in 2012 with his business partner, Mark Cairns. He met Mark whilst playing rugby for Currie RFC in Edinburgh. He's supported by his wife, Claire, and kept honest by his 16-month-old son, Jamie, which I'm fully aware of, the demands of kids keeping you honest. He's a former college lecturer in sports science in Edinburgh. He's also a former player for Currie RFC, which is a Premiership club in Scotland. He has a real interest in how coaches get the most out of the players they work with, and it's a pleasure to have him on the show. So welcome, Andy.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for the introduction.
Yeah,
I was kept very honest by my son this morning.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
between 1:30 and 4.
Oh, nice. Yeah, well, they're the dark hours of parenting right there.
Yeah. Wouldn't change it. Wouldn't change it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. They're a pleasure. I've got 2 and 1 on the way, so it's a blessing for sure. So we've been trying to set this interview up for a while now, so it's great to have you on the show. And I don't know if you're dodging me because of the Australia-Scotland quarterfinal or not, but really happy to have you on the show.
I just make it a habit to dodge Australians normally, to be honest with you.
That's a pretty good policy, I reckon.
It was kind of a tough one to take.
Yeah, for sure. Pretty unlucky. I think definitely Australia, the Wallabies dodged a bullet there, and yeah, it'd be heartbroken as a rugby fan seeing that.
Yeah, I think it was nice that Scotland actually had it. They really were in the game. I think it was actually when they beat Australia was it in Newcastle? It was
that's right.
9-6 and it was chucking it down, and I don't know how much of a claim you can put to that one, but certainly if they'd managed to get that result in that quarter final, it couldn't have been argued with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Equally, Australia were justified winners as well. So
yeah, and I think going into that quarter, like Scotland had won the last 3 out of 5 or something like that. One of them being the Newcastle game, and another being a Murrayfield game where it was the same appalling weather conditions. They won by 1 or 2 points on penalties, but yeah, really good matchup with both teams. So, and I'm excited to see how they go in the Six Nations this year.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. It's a different tournament, I think, just the nature of it without the bonus points and or that you would have in the group stage of the World Cup, and I guess that the World Cup were pretty fortunate with regards to the weather during the World Cup that it was played sort of, I suppose, top of the ground. Rugby was getting played, and that's not always the case in the Six Nations, unfortunately, this time of year. So it'll be interesting, but we're looking forward to it anyway. So
yeah, they adapt. All right, so we went into a little bit about your backstory. Do you want to go into a little bit more detail about how you've gotten to where you are and some of the journeys, some of the experiences on the journey?
Yeah, so Edinburgh, born and bred.
Yeah,
I'm still here, not far from the nest.
Yeah,
went to played for Currie Rugby Club, which was my local club.
Yeah,
a pretty young club actually. It was in the 70s that they were formed, and won the first sort of league title with them there before I actually moved on to a club called Stuart's Melville, also in Edinburgh.
Mm-hmm.
When a friend was coaching, got given the head coach's job, so he asked me to go and play and support him in a sort of strength and conditioning role as well. So went there, and that was good, and managed to get promoted up to the Premiership with those guys. And I wasn't there for an overly long time, but as is the way in rugby, you make some friends for life. Which is great. So, and all along at that time as well, I was lecturing at Edinburgh College, which is in Edinburgh.
Yep.
And involved in sort of sports coaching and sports science. So lecturing up to sort of degree level, having done a sports science undergraduate course. So, so that was my sort of main background, and tended to sort of lean towards. I've got a real interest in coaching, and it just so happened that the sort of slight route I went down with the sports science background was more into the strength and conditioning rather than the rugby stuff. But one of my big interests in coaching is the building of relationships and how that can be supported. So, and then you mentioned obviously I met Mark Cairns, who's business partner, playing at Currie, and we just, as all good ideas are, that was formed actually in a pub one night.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Just it was one of those source of frustration ideas where, looking that there must have just been a better way to do things around getting messages across, sharing sort of mostly around the video analysis, where rather than guys, in maybe sort of slightly more under-resourced clubs or organisations huddling around sort of or gathering around one computer, and thought, well, there's got to be a better way. And it was only 18 months down the line, Coach Logic was born.
Oh, that's great.
and it was as easy as that.
And that's such a rugby story there too. Just devising something in a pub over a beer and then putting it into practice. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So what's the guiding philosophy then of Coach Logic? What's the ultimate goal that you're trying to achieve with Coach Logic in terms of what you're providing coaches with?
Yeah, so we stand by developing smarter players.
Yep.
Mark also has got an education background as well, so we're big on trying to empower the players.
Yeah.
And give them or extend the learning opportunities, give them as many opportunities to learn as possible, get them involved in the process as early as possible as well. So, for example, with the video, as soon as that video is ready, it can be shared with the players, and we've got some really good examples of sort of 14-year-olds actually analysing their own game through our system, just because it's really easy to use, and that's really powerful for us. That players, the reality is they want to take ownership, they want to improve. Just because players aren't maybe professional by status, doesn't mean they're not professional in mindset.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that seems to goes across a number of sports, and you could maybe argue some guys aren't professional by status are more professional in mindset. But just trying to take, given those opportunities for guys to ultimately take responsibility and have the right mindset that they want to improve.
Yeah. So a general description of the program, it's web based, obviously, and
so it's web based. Coaches and players all get their own login.
Yeah.
We have an activity feed, which is, I suppose, the sort of central point of the platform, where you can sort of have discussions with individuals, you can have discussions with groups or with the whole team. And you can, a really good practice that we're seeing is that you can actually sort of share video links within that message board as well. So people are using that from a best practice point of view. So just to maybe reinforce a message, there's loads of great content out there. You don't have to look too hard to find great sort of coaching content. So what they'll do is they'll use maybe like a masterclass by, I don't know, say like Victor Matfield on lineouts to connect some dots based on what they've maybe discussed or what they've looked at in the video or what they've worked on in training, just as an extra sort of reinforcement tool. So from there, the next port of call tends to be the video room, and that's where it's real focused around the sort of sharing and analysis of match footage for the most part. Some guys will get the training footage up there as well, and it's just extended out. So we have different examples of how of workflows for different clubs, where sometimes the coach will use the video as a sort of starting point to really sort of, I suppose, generate some discussion around about certain aspects of the game using our sort of tagging system, and you can comment on the video as well.
Okay.
So players can sort of see exactly what the coach is interested in. What we see again is that players will be given the opportunity to really lead the analysis. So the coach might identify some events, but the players will then feed back below the video. Somebody will be given responsibility for the line out, somebody responsibility for attack, somebody responsibility for defence, and then they'll actually sort of feedback, alongside the video. And then quite often that'll lead to a more sort of personal sort of session where just sort of prior to heading out for training, they'll have a little sort of 5-10 minutes sort of feedback there, so that it means that time on the pitch is increased because they've spent less time inside looking at the video. Although on a night like we've got in Scotland, you mightn't be too bothered about that at the moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can really sort of maximise that time on the pitch. But more than that, rather than just spending more time, you spend more quality time.
Yeah.
Because the guys have got a real understanding of what it is they're going out to work on and how it fits into the performance coming up next weekend.
It sounds to me like it's very, very player centered. Like it's a little bit coach driven in terms of putting the videos up and leading the conversation. But then, it sounds like the goal of the program is to be completely athlete centered and driven by them and just facilitated and monitored by the coaches, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I guess that's how the game works as well, isn't it?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
once you cross the whitewash on a Saturday or whenever you play, the coaches got minimal input there. So the players need to get used to that. So if they play on a Saturday, they need to get used to that Sunday to Friday, and then they can deal with that on a Saturday.
Yeah.
If the coach is sort of leading everything and driving everything and the sort of fountain of all knowledge, Sunday to Friday, then come Saturday, players, that's how the players are looking to the coach for guidance too much. So it comes to have quite a negative effect on the performance. So making sure that there's got to be connectivity with what you do off the field to what you do on the field, and I think it helps building relationships as well. Guys can really start to trust each other. They get an understanding of what everyone else is thinking round about them as well, which is really powerful. It helps guys sort of pull together in the same direction for a better performance.
I think that's that building relationships piece of coaching is one that just can't be highlighted enough. I think a lot of coaches and the rugby community are obsessed with what's that magic drill and what's that cool line-out move that you saw the All Blacks do against France in the World Cup final 4 years ago, and let's get that. But if you don't know what's going on in the day-to-day lives of your players and how that's affecting the team, like all that stuff's not really any good.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and there's a lot of stuff actually in this sort of also the coach-athlete relationship and how that has changed over the last years, where as much as anything, there's a lot more respect from for the athlete and what they can bring to the table.
Yeah.
But also there's the what we think is really important is the athlete to athlete relationship as well. To really try and build that trust and culture that ultimately is going to end up in a better performance on the weekend.
That's great.
They've got that trust and understanding. And one thing that we sort of look back on is, I remember when we started coaching, I was still playing, and Mark was the same, and there's lots of people like this, you sort of have that kind of "I wish I knew now what I knew then" idea, where you start to coach and you think, hang on a minute, this game is starting to make more sense to me. So if we, again, something else we would try and encourage is give your athletes a coach's mindset, so they do look at the game slightly differently, and hopefully through coach logic and the type of culture that supports that allows that, so that the players have just got a much better understanding of the game.
Yeah, and I think I love I've played around for a little bit through some Canada programs that I'm involved in, and that video room, I just love that. Like for me, it's like that's the kids we're dealing with and the younger adult athletes that we're dealing with. That's what they respond to. They respond to that visual stimulus and the video game culture and everything like that. And it's such an awesome learning tool, I think. Are you able to, like, when you put a video up, are you able to say separate it? Say you just want the back three to look at a counter-attack clip and you just want comments from them. Can you do that? And then can you monitor who comments for that accountability piece and those kind of things?
Yeah, and again, it's like you say, it needs to be led by the coach, but then I suppose implemented by the players. So you can absolutely set that up and give those players responsibility to identify what you want them to identify, or maybe just come up with anything that they think is important, and then get them to feedback from their point of view, what they see. It's all very well us seeing, or coaches seeing what they see. We're getting that understanding of the players' understanding is really important. So you can absolutely set that up in there.
Yeah, great. So if you were asked to list the key advantages to having Coach Logic, what would they be?
The big thing for us is it supports that sort of learning culture. I mean, ultimately, everyone wants to improve performance, and it will improve your performance. But it's about a sort of consistently improved performance as well.
Yeah.
So rather than here's some data on missed tackles or what have you, and that's great. So there's a real focus next weekend on nobody missing any tackles, but if we can have that understanding of why we missed those tackles, then you get not just an improved performance that week, but you get an improved performance the week after and the week after as well. So that the standards are just going to keep getting better and better, and through that sort of sharing of good practice as well. That it's far easier for players to, I suppose, benchmark themselves against themselves from weeks gone by, but against other players as well.
Yeah, right.
As they move forward.
Yeah, and moving forward, what are some things you'd like to see kind of added to the program, just to just from after you've rolled it out and you've run it, and a bunch of clubs are using it, a bunch of national programs are using it, and you probably get some feedback from them about what might work and things. Is there anything on the horizon?
I mean, I'll give you an example of something that did happen. Was we worked with some clubs to develop what we call Club Connect.
Yeah.
Which is it's sharing the video footage between platforms. You don't share anything else, but it just on a very basic level, it just makes things easier because you don't have two guys standing next to each other filming the same thing, or it helps with the resources where not everyone needs to have somebody filming every week, but it also helps to raise those coaching and play standards because everyone can see what everyone's doing pretty clearly now as well.
Yeah.
From a coach's point of view, you maybe need to just understand that other coaches can pick out your sort of strengths and weaknesses, but equally from a player's point of view, if you know that all your opponents and vice versa are having a look at your strengths and weaknesses, then it helps you to up your game. Other areas that we'd like to sort of take that forward is, again, probably really focusing on the player and giving them even more responsibility. So giving them the opportunity to sort of pick out and I suppose create playlists, if you like, that are more specific to their learning. So rather than just being a case of here's I scored some tries, or here's my big hits and what have you, given that opportunity to really sort of pick out areas of areas for improvement and maybe helping with the sort of categorisation of that, so that they can start to really develop an understanding of where their game's at. So just maybe a little bit more intelligence around that sort of use of the video would be, from our point of view, as much as the players' point of view as well. So.
That's exciting. That there's going to be, it's one of those things that I'm sure is just going to constantly grow and develop. So that's exciting. What about for the coach who, still has that, flip top phone, doesn't know how to send a text message, is really scared of technology in general? How easy is this to use for someone like that?
I can use it. It's probably when we were developing it. Mark is maybe more technically orientated than I am, shall we say?
Yeah.
A few years back, and there was a bit of a joke going around at the time that if I could use it without any bother, then it must be easy to use. And it is like again. That's we focus on the players. The reason that we've had success is because by focusing on the players, it makes the platform really accessible in terms of the functionality. Mm-hmm. So, like I say, we've got young guys that can jump on and start tagging their own games. So certainly, your coach that you've described there will be pleasantly surprised as to once they've logged in just how easy it is to get on board. So.
Yeah, it didn't take me long for, I'm no whiz with technology either, and it didn't take me long to work my way through it and things like that. So it's definitely very user friendly from my standpoint. What about things like iPhones and tablets, and how user friendly is it with there?
Yeah, it all works across all platforms, if you like. So there's no problems there. We'll probably, going back to your question, I suppose, about the sort of future developments.
Yep.
There's potential to become more app based, but we don't just want to replicate what we've got there. We want to make sure that the experience for someone using an app is really powerful. So it might be that it becomes a two-sided thing where there's maybe more functionality, if you like, for the coach. But from the player's point of view, it's even sort of stripped down even further, and we really focus on the things that are going to make the difference to the player improving, whilst understanding that, I suppose it's just the nature of today's world, is that coaches or people are just used to dealing with a little bit more information, and almost from a back end point of view, the coach just wants a little bit more control and a bit more information at his fingertips to help them guide the players and help them get the most out of the players. So that's kind of something we're quite interested in at the moment.
Yeah, that's great. Well, for me, looking at the program, one of the distinct advantages for the coaching that I'm doing right now, a lot of the coaching I'm doing is it's not a club, right? It's like some rep teams and some national age grade stuff. So often it's you have these guys in a camp and then you don't see them for a few months. I think coaching by distance, this is a really strong platform for doing things like that.
Yeah, no, definitely. I suppose it even going back to that idea of making sure you make the most of your time on a weekly basis on the pitch.
Yeah,
we do have guys exactly like that use it from when they're in camp, they need to just out of that short period of time that they've got together. So therefore, using it remotely in the run up to the camp, it can add a real value to that week, 2 weeks that are spent together, because again, everyone's got a clear understanding of what to expect and what they're going to achieve whilst they are together.
When you got that hour and a half session, any time you can save it's like you say, it's just going to lead to improvement. So for coaches interested in this, what are some of the various packages that Coach Logic offers? Is it just a one size fits all, or there's various levels?
Yeah, we've got a few different levels. So the basic platform allows you to do some analysis. It gives you all the activity feed and messaging board that we spoke about, and allows you to do some video analysis using our tagging system, if you like.
Yeah. Which
allows you to highlight key moments and add comments. There's other sort of a performance platform, if you like, that it allows you to integrate with sort of offline solutions. So that sort of organisation that is maybe slightly better resourced and has got some offline video analysis products that can maybe just drill down into a little bit more detail, they can now share that within their Coach Logic platform. And the other main one is that we've got the development platform, which is really focused at academy level.
Yeah.
And it gives the opportunity to upload a video once, but give each player potentially a private copy of that video. And that's a scenario where the player would do their own analysis, and then the coach can see what it is they've picked out. They can give them some feedback through Coach Logic, or they can give them some face-to-face feedback. And what we've actually seen in that development platform is you've got, like say, a 14-year-old in an academy is tagging their own performance. They have a senior player as a mentor.
Yeah.
And they will then go in and review that for the junior player, and then give them some feedback, and then start a little bit of a conversation round about that performance, and give them some pointers and just give them a bit of guidance to help them improve as they move forward. And it's really powerful from the junior player's point of view to have that mindset that they're willing to do that and get the experience and knowledge of a senior player, but also going back to that idea of the players having the coach's mindset. The senior player then can sort of tap into that, and it maybe just makes them think about the game in a slightly different way. Understand what's important, but just through sharing a little bit of information back to a junior player.
Yeah, that's great. I like that last option. Something definitely the environment I coach in is similar to what you're saying there. Okay, so what are some of the costs of these these programs that Coach Logic offers?
Yeah, so depending on it's based around a per team, so it'd be like £350 per team per year, starting from the basic package, which can go up to sort of £1,900 per team per year. And that's just based on maybe some additional functionality or additional sort of video storage or players onto the platform, little things like that. So, but we're pretty flexible. Ultimately, we want people to benefit from using Coach Logic. So we'll always be able to find an option that will suit an individual or suit a club or an organisation, depending on what their requirements are.
Yeah, that's great, and that's when you look at what you invest into a team over a calendar year, a rugby calendar year, £350 is not a lot, to ask when you think of what the amount of commitment that the coaches and players put into a rugby season. They might end up playing 20, 25 games and times that by 2 or 3 for all the practices and everything like that, and plus their dues and those kind of things. It's a small price to ask, I'd say. No,
definitely, and the hope is that the return on that investment is pretty big.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Especially those young guys as well. That if we look at going back to that guy I was talking about who tags his game and then goes to mentor. That he wants to be the best rugby player he can be, but as a person, he's probably going to go pretty far if at 14 he's willing to review his own performance in that way and then open it up to discussion to somebody more senior to him and take feedback and go and improve. He may or may not make it as a rugby player, but he'll go pretty well in life just with that mindset. And if we can, I suppose as any good coach do, you're looking at developing the person as well as the athlete. So.
I didn't think of that actually, but there's got to be transfers there from an educational standpoint. The kid's going to be assessing his rugby performance, and they're going to roll into, okay, how am I doing at math and how am I doing in science? Let's assess it and seek some help or whatever.
Yeah.
No, that's great. Exactly. Okay, so if people wanted, often on this platform as a podcast, it's hard for people to visualise what's going on. If people wanted to see this, like, do you have any resources out there, like on YouTube or anything like that? I can put them up on the Rugby Coaches Corner website for them to check out.
Yeah, we've got a YouTube channel, which is just if you just search that, it's just Coach Logic, and that'll bring you to our YouTube channel. There's a load of different videos from sort of user experience videos from some of the guys that use the platform, all the way to sort of fairly in-depth tutorials that will give you a real good understanding of the mechanics of how the whole thing works, and showing how easy it is to get involved and start benefiting from using it pretty quickly.
Yeah, great. Okay. Yeah, well, I'll put that up on the website and people can check that out. And I've watched a couple of them. There's a field hockey one, I think, and then there's a rugby one and a couple others. So I'll put them up for everyone to have a look.
We're also pretty active on Twitter as well, which is just at Coach Logic. There's generally some good content up there and some good discussions every now and again as well. So, and it's all focused again around that sort of the sort of mindset, the coaches, the relationship to have with players. The players using video to really improve themselves and having that mindset as well. So,
great.
A good place to go.
And if people want to email you or the Coach Logic web page, what are the details for that?
Yeah, so the web page is coach-logic.com.
Mm-hmm.
And then anyone can get in touch with me. It's just Andy at coach-logic.com.
Okay, great, fantastic. I'll put all that in the show notes and everything too.
If people want to put like the Rugby Coaches Corner, even just as the the sort of subject line, then I know exactly where you guys are coming from as well, which is nice.
Exactly. Yeah, help track where the information's come from. Okay, we always end the show with 4 standard questions. The first one: who was the player you most liked watching when you were growing up as a kid?
Yeah, there's a few guys that stand out. John Olomu charging around South Africa in '95 was a real standout memory for me. I was relatively late to rugby. I was probably more of a football guy before that, so that's a real sort of standout memory. From a more Scottish perspective, I don't know if this classes as a kid when I was 18, but Scotland are still the reigning Five Nations champions from 1999. And it was Brian Redpath, Gregor Townsend, Alan Tate, those guys, going around the back line. It was just
some quality players.
Yeah, some real good quality, and which was great.
Absolutely, some big names there, and the Joan Lomu passing, like the outpouring from the rugby community has been amazing.
Yeah, he's pretty inspirational individual, and he definitely seemed to have a real positive change on rugby, really, just at the time where it was really starting to take off and go professional and what have you. So
yeah, okay. And what about current players now? Who do you like? What's going around now?
Yeah, I was thinking, back to the Rugby World Cup, like Man Onu, just he's always been good, but I just feel he's a guy that's really, from a mindset point of view, he's improved so much over the years as well. From maybe slightly unfairly being seen as a bit of a basher to now he's kicking, he's passing, and great feet, great speed. I think that try scored against Australia just to get one back in the World Cup final.
Thanks a lot.
He's run a decent distance there at good speed, and I suppose a sort of homegrown guy with Mark Bennett breaking through. I thought he had a real nice partnership with Matt Scott in the Scottish midfield, and those two guys were playing together. He's a young guy who's pretty exciting from an attack point of view, and then a bit of a crowd pleaser in DTH Van der Merwe.
Yeah, he's fantastic, eh?
Yeah, to score a try in all 4 games is impressive, and all 4 group games, pretty impressive. And he's obviously I think he'll be a big miss at Glasgow, actually, sort of closer to home. I'm pretty sure he'll end up scoring against them a couple of times a year when he turns out for the Scarlets. So
yeah, he was outstanding. Like Canada had a tough go of it at the World Cup, but he was an absolute standout. And with a couple of the teams that I coached, we had him. He came and talked to some of our guys, under 19 guys, the team I was coaching, and he was a champion. He stuck around. He talked to them for probably 20 minutes when the rest of the team had all headed off into the bus and stuff like that. So great role model for rugby and represents the game really well.
That's good. Good to hear that. Eh?
Yeah. Okay. And what about favourite coaches? What's a high profile coach going around that you like what they're doing?
Yeah, again, pretty close to home, but Gregor Townsend.
Yeah,
seems to be doing a real good job. Getting a lot out of some players who've got ability, but making sure that they continue to improve. A lot of those guys have come from the club game in Scotland. And then they've sort of made the step up, and I think he's been from the outside, certainly looking in, he certainly seems to have been a big influence and factor in so many of those guys obviously going on and representing Scotland so positively at the World Cup, but also winning the Pro 12 Championship last year.
Yeah, that was a huge result for them, and he was over here in Nova Scotia just before the World Cup, and I managed to catch a video of his presentation, and I learned a lot out of that. So yeah, I agree. He's definitely got things sorted out. All right, and last question: Who's a coach digging away in the trenches, doing really good work that maybe doesn't have a huge profile internationally that you think needs a mention?
He's maybe starting to get a slight international profile, having supported Canada at the World Cup. But Graham Moffat, he's a Scottish guy, but he's out in Alberta, director of rugby out in Alberta.
Yeah, he's a champion.
Really impressed by him. I've known him for a long time on a sort of personal level, and I was lucky enough to be out in Alberta in April.
Okay.
And just to sort of see him on a more sort of professional level, the way he was, he worked with, sort of fellow coaches, he worked with the players, and he's always been good at building relationships, and they've always been based on sort of trust and mutual respect, which is so important. And he's got great knowledge of the game as well, and he's pretty innovative. He loves learning. He's always looking for how he can improve himself. He took a big step of leaving Scotland and heading out to Canada a few years ago to really sort of further himself as a coach. And it was good to see, I suppose, that recognised by him getting the opportunity to go and support Canada at the World Cup.
Yeah,
as a coach there. So
no, he's been working really hard, and he got some good results with the Prairie Wolfpack last year, this year actually, but in the summer winning the Canadian Regional Championship. And he's a champion bloke. He shares everything. Great guy to have a chat with about rugby. And I've already invited him onto the show, so he'll be coming up soon.
You better say something nice about me as well, then.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll let him know. Well, hopefully he's listening, and he can prep that in advance. All right. Well, Andy, it's been great talking to you. I really appreciate you coming on the show, and I think Coach Logic's a great product, and I'm not just saying that because you're on the show, but I've had experiences with it. Not a huge amount of experience, but just from my coaching point of view and what I'm doing and what I need, like looking at it, it's just a great platform. And I think bare minimum, every coach should at least check out the website, the videos, and those kind of things, and then make a decision from there. But it's been great chatting to you, and thanks massively for coming on the show.
Yeah, no problem, and thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Rugby Coaches Corner podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please leave a review via iTunes and keep listening for the next episode. You can also follow us on Twitter at RugbyCoachSCNR or via the website at therugbycoachescorner.com. Until next time, keep sharing ideas to make the game better.